Are you a business owner? You have better things to do than to job hunt or scramble to find your next great hire? Let Spherian Staffing and Recruiting do it. Visit Spherian online at Spherian.com/Utah. They bring you Tim LaComb's appearance every week. Tim, good morning.
What up? How are you guys?
We're good. How are you?
I'm thrilled. I'm excited. It's the best day of the year for me. I love this
best day of the year?
I think so. I mean, beyond my wife's birthday and our anniversary.
Okay.
There you go. All right, drop it to third.
You had me nervous there.
What about Christmas and Thanksgiving?
This is better.
I don't want you to be slighting Yolanda.
Yeah, Yolanda does a lot for me. She's a wonderful woman.
Who is going to do a lot for the Utah Jazz? Who should they pick? You've watched a lot of video. You got a guy.
Yeah, I do have a guy. I do have several guys, and I think the indication now, I mean, everybody gets to play in mock draft and assume how the board's going to go, but tonight is like a very, very adventurous roller coaster, and everybody's going to get strapped into their little seat, and the draft's going to start, and, you know, at that point, that's when the thing gets real. It's going to be drops, and you just got to be ready. So in no necessarily particular order, you know, the guys I hope are there is a group kind of I really like Devin Carter, and I really like my pipe dream in this draft is Castle, but you know, the sounds of it, he's going to be gone probably. I'm not convinced Shepard's going 3. I think Shepard may drop a little bit. I think somebody's going to move up and take 3 as part of a trade to Houston. I think at that point the draft goes, you know, where it goes. But I like, you know, if there's a group of guys, it's Devin Carter, it's Cody Williams. I really like him. I would love the Jazz could get him. I think Ron Holland's got to be in that group. And, you know, and maybe, Topic, you know, late. That would be kind of my order.
How about the idea of you look at some of these guys, like you bring up a Carter, okay, he is a junior. You bring up a Holland who did a year in the G League, and you bring up Cody Williams 1 year at Colorado, right? And so then you got a little later, you got like a Jacoby Walter down there at Baylor, just played the one season up and down. But then you got somebody like De Silva in Colorado who did play his entire career over there for the Buffs. So what I'm getting at is, the fact that these have been there a little longer, does that back you off a little bit? And you are more intrigued by someone who's only played the 1 year, even though he may not be better? Because if you just compare De Silva to Cody Williams, the same team, well, there's clear De Silva was a better player, but he's also 3 years older. So how much do you take that into consideration when you're making your pick?
No, I think the higher picks, you know, I would assume the Jazz will probably swing toward younger guys with upside. I think it's later in the draft. Like if they're able to couple 32 and 29 and move up a little bit, get into that, you know, that late teens, early 20s, I think that's where you could see a guy like De Silva go. You know, he's a guy that I think you can plug and play. And so I think the nature of the Jazz roster, the number of guys, and particularly the 3 one-and-dones they took last year, you know, I think you add a little equity or balance perhaps, and I would expect one of those picks to be a more proven guy. But the draft has really over the last decade or two, really, if there's been a choice, it's usually gone to the younger player. But I think the Jazz are in a little bit different situation, and I think every deal, you know, every pick stands on its own in that regard.
When you gave us your list of names there, it felt like I don't know if all, but the vast majority of those guys are going to be off the board. So if you're really committed to that, if the Jazz are committed in the way you're committed, should they be trading up?
No, I don't think this is a draft. Like, for me, there is one guy I would trade up. Actually, I'd probably trade up for one guy, and that'd be Castle. I just think he's a great fit. And I think he brings to the Jazz a bunch of things that we've really, quite frankly, lacked. I think he's just a guy who's, he cuts his teeth. He makes his money on the defensive side. And then, the question about his shot, we've seen that a bunch, but I studied his mechanics. I think the dude can become a better shooter. And I do think he's kind of for me, the gem of this draft. But beyond that, I think you're dealing with, as Locke would say, a bunch of butt statements. He can really shoot, but he can't handle. He can really score, but he can't guard. And so, in my mind, I think they're in a good place to, if they do make a move, I would assume it will be behind 10. I don't expect them to go up in front of 10. And just hoping, as I said, right now, we've read for a couple of months, what everybody else thinks this draft's going to be. But I'm here to tell you, this thing to me could go a lot of different ways. So I think that's why you got to have your board. You got to have your wish. And then all it takes is a couple of trades and guys seeking other dudes. I mean, we haven't talked about Zach Edey, but I think there's a real possibility he goes in the top 15, possibly 10, because I think a lot of people have played possum on him, and he is the one dude in this draft that you can guarantee what he's going to bring.
I've been salivating over Zach Baked Edey for a good while now.
So, you like him?
Yeah, I think he's wildly underrated. I'm not looking like he's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but man, I have a Wooden Award voted him both times. He won both times. I just think that he has a skill. Sure, he's got some issues at the other end, but name me the complete player. I've yet to find him.
Right.
There's
PK and DJ hold that crown usually.
There's a few players out there historically. Sure, he's not LeBron. I get it, but it looks like he can help your team. And at the very least, backup center is a position that you need to have somebody be effective. If it's just for 15 minutes, you need solid minutes. If you can get solid minutes of the minimum 15 out of somebody, I don't think you just scoff at that.
DJ, can Edey play 22 minutes in the NBA?
He can play it. My only question would be, is his body going to hold up? But as far as from the talent perspective, the thing I think he brings is that you can't guard him one-on-one inside. I think he'll score a lot. You're going to have to help on him. It's going to open up your three-point shooters. So I think he can be a real plus at the offensive end of the court between his scoring, and I think he passes well enough. Defensively there'll be some issues, but it's like PK said, he'd go number one if he was locking people up like he was Gobert. So by the time you get to 10 or 15, why wouldn't someone take a flyer on him? I don't think he's a guarantee, but I don't think anybody else is a guarantee either.
That's the guy that I think that's going to be an interesting watch tonight, because I think everybody has stayed away from it. You look at mock drafts, and he's somewhere in the late teens. But somebody somewhere has got a penchant for this dude, and he will be a guy I think we'll see him go before 15.
Ooh, there it is.
I think he's onto something there, because he's been climbing in the mock drafts. So although I don't know for sure, I suspect he's been interviewing well. I suspect he showed well in the workouts, because he's been trending up in all the mock drafts. And I've seen, somebody had him at 17. So for you to say 15 isn't a reach, because I think there's probably who's like, I like him more than I thought I did, and I already liked him. And if we just don't say anything, I think we can get him at 13. I could totally believe that that's out there.
Yeah, the other thing to monitor is obviously Sarr, rim protector extraordinaire. He's expected I think he's a lock to Washington. If somebody, gets antsy and jumps up to take Klingon, just like you see in the NFL draft, there's kind of a rush for certain positions. So to me, it's going to be interesting. But he is one in all the mock drafts I read. I just think, you always see somebody slide and you always see somebody rise. So Edey to me will be kind of a meteor tonight. And where he ends up, I was so lukewarm on him middle of the college basketball season. Just continue to watch. And as I've watched him on tape during this process in the draft, as I said, where there's a whole lot of question marks, I mean, this is one solid statement that this dude can, he can play. I think he's earned a ton of respect. So let's see where he goes. But that's one to put a bookmark in.
Justin Zanuck spoke the other day, and he was talking about, they at this level, they watch these guys long before they get to college, right? And at 16 years old, they're on their radar. And so you were involved in the college coaching. How much emphasis do you put on from the time you've been watching somebody play, which is almost like year-round now, they can scout them, versus just the particular, I'm speaking of the American player, obviously, just the college, the one season. You look like a kid like Walter down at Baylor, right? Was up and down in his one season. But do you look way beyond that earlier and say, well, I've also got this evidence before he got to college and played the one season? You know what I mean? How much emphasis do you just put on the one college season, which we would assume would be a higher level of competition?
You break it down even beyond that. And I think the secret of this is, you said, get started early. A conversation I had once with DA, he was telling me that he kind of knew that Tatum was the guy because of the time he spent watching that guy from a distance for 5-6 years. But within that college season, there's so much stuff that just goes unnoticed, because if you just watch highlight films and you look at numbers, you'll get some story. But when you have, as you said, that backstory, you understand what this young person's all about, what makes them tick, and then you get inside of each possession. There's so many factors and variables in the college game, one of which is the coach and the style, one of which is the guys he's playing with and how willing they are to move the basketball and put you in a good position. So, yeah, you've got to dig way deeper than just that 1 year, and you've got to dig way deeper than just those numbers on a page, because there's a lot more to the story.
College recruiting is different than the draft, but I think it's similar in this regard. When talent was approximately the same, how much did you weight your interactions with the players, your instinct on how much they were going to improve, all the stuff that goes into that, how they related to their high school and AAU coaches and teammates and the parents and all that stuff? Because in this draft, where the talent seems, even if the talent's different, it seems equitable and it's close, I would think that people are going to be betting heavy based on these interactions they've had and the perception of how they are as people and how much they could improve and how much they could go off the rails when they get some money and some power.
That's the secret sauce. The amount of hours that teams spend, and money, on background. I told you guys a number of times, I'm an assistant basketball coach at the college level, but we had guys who were just, kind of fringe draft picks through the years, and you wouldn't believe the number of calls I'd get on one guy, So, yeah, you're exactly right. I think the caveat for us was we looked at, did they win? And were they a part of winning teams? And that was a lot of times the tiebreaker. Another one, I haven't talked about much, is how do they treat their parents? Because that's a huge indicator, of just respect. Is there a respect factor there? In fact, there's a great story about Randy Ray, who I admire so much. Randy was just his own guy. And, he saw the world and kind of, in his years kind of put together the formula he thought was great. But there's a story where a kid came to visit Weber State, and they were playing pickup, the first afternoon, and college coaches can't watch the pickup, when a recruit comes in. So oftentimes, you go to lunch after the workout. And in this case, I got to the restaurant and the young guy, Randy said, "So how'd the pickup go?" And he asked the young guy, and the dad, across the table stepped in and was like, "Your guys sure don't like to pass the ball very much." And, Randy, this is before the menus are on the table, but nothing's been served. It's the first day of the visit. And Randy's like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "Well, they left him, he was wide open a bunch. And they just looked him off." Randy said, "This visit's over."
Really?
And he stood up and he told the assistant, "Pay for their meal. But after this, we're done. You guys, I don't want you."
Nice.
He was a really good player, but it was like, I'm not going to put up with this nonsense. And so, again, there's a lot of tells, a lot of indicators.
Man, the kid would just be looking at his dad. Thanks, Dad.
Well, cross them off the list.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that you have to discover long before the name is called. You've got to answer that, and because it's like Frank Layden used to say, we can't put the best team out on the floor every year, but we could have the best fan experience. Our ticket takers can be great. Our ushers can be great. Our food servers can be great. All that type of stuff being the thing that you can absolutely bank on. You've got to make sure that you're grading out to an A over there, because it's hard to put the best team out on the floor. But the stuff that you can control, you can do that. And so I would think that for here, with the Jazz, what they're looking for is that they've answered those questions a good while ago. You know what I mean? If they think they have like 5 guys that would be available at 5, they would, at 10, that they would have all those issues solved in their mind already.
And probably ranked, as part of that's part of the ranking.
Yeah.
Is obviously that facet.
And I've got good news for you, Tim. 41 next year, I will be sitting in the room with the 3 of you BSing, because I was called out earlier for not showing up to the arena, and that'll never happen again. My work ethic.
You're going to hang out with us.
My work ethic was called into question. Yes, and so I will be there for. Well, how many preseason games did they play? I'll be there too. Yeah.
Well, we don't do the preseason, so check with me.
No, I'm going to be there either way. Hey, whether you're not there, I don't care.
Sit up there and practice like they practice preseason. We can practice our dialogue.
Yes. I was called out. I was literally called out on the show for that.
And I'm assuming it was DJ that called you out.
I'm not naming names.
It's a good assumption.
Yeah, I was called out.
The way you're making a scene here, I would assume it's your colleague in crime.
If I ever saw him at a college football stadium, I might say something.
Ooh.
But,
You did.
Right.
Hey, DJ and I are season ticket holders down at BYU. Nobody knows that.
So get me a
Right
get me a comfortable chair.
Hey,
I'm going to be there.
Popcorn, Deej.
He forgot he talked to me at the Gator game.
Yeah, I know. This is getting personal, and I don't like it.
Well,
when we're wonderful
It's
men,
too
there's
late.
no reason to fight.
It's too late.
Well, I only know one way to respond when I'm attacked.
With your teeth.
Guns a-blazing.
Hyena in a nature video.
Let me flip the script real fast. DJ, who do you want from this draft?
Well, I don't know, because we don't get to do all the homework that I think you need to do to make an intelligent pick. But having said that, the way Topic seems to be falling, if he doesn't have cartilage damage in his knee, I'd take him. I don't have the medical report. If he has a cartilage damage, I'd pass. I don't care about the ACL. And they only talk about the ACL, and the ACL doesn't bother me.
Yeah. High-level brain, basketball AI, incredible in the ball screen. A little upright, a little tight in the hips, but he's 18. What about you, PK?
Oh, I've been saying Williams for weeks.
Okay.
I just don't think he's going to be available. I would have said him, but that seems to me like you got to be trade-up guy to get a hold of him.
Because trade-up guy to get a hold of him.
I think he's going to go 5, 6, 7.
In my mind, I think there's a chance. I think there's a chance he'll be around, and that's a solid pick. I like Williams a lot.
DJ PK, he is Tim LaComb. And he joins us every week right here on The Zone. We'll talk to you again next week, Tim. Thank you.
See you game one.
Yeah, preseason one, come on up with a lot of thoughts. It's a long game.
Thanks, Tim. DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone.